Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the emotional safety of everyone listening. Radiant Resilience often explores real stories of struggle, healing, and the human experience. Because of that, episodes may include sensitive or triggering topics. Specific topics for each episode are listed in the episode description, so please check there to determine if this conversation feels right for you today. This podcast is meant to offer connection, understanding, and shared humanity, but it is not a substitute for professional advice or support. If you find yourself needing help, please reach out to qualified professionals or trusted resources in your life. Your mental and emotional well-being matters deeply here. Thank you for your courage, your openness, and for joining me in this space of compassion and resilience. Welcome back, everyone, to Radiant Resilience. I am, as always, so excited for this conversation. I feel like I say that at the beginning of every episode. I probably should come up with something more unique, but very excited for this conversation today. I have Cynda here from, if you remember, episodes 11 and 24. We chatted a lot about 11 was more of her previous marriage and how she got to where she was now, and then 24 was just an update on life then. And there's been a lot happening since then and until now. And we also want to reflect on 2025. Yeah, welcome, Cynda. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me. I've been excited about this podcast since you messaged me, and it helps you reflect, doesn't it? Not just because you asked, but there was like, oh wait, I should take a minute to reflect on the last year. So you helped me just do that personally without even doing a podcast.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah. Sometimes it's not so fun to reflect the last year. It depends on how your year went. But I think it is important for moving forward to look back on things and be like, oh, that happened, that happened. That was a good thing. That was a bad thing. I don't want to repeat that. How did we get there? Like things like that, because that's how we grow, right?
Yeah, review. And I like the part about moving forward. That was the biggest thing I
Mm.
remember is from the first episode that we did to the second one that we did, having the dream boards, right?
Mm.
Imagining that beautiful story. And that's the thing I think as humans, we get stuck in what's happening and forget to look ahead, even if it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. So I know you had a dream board before. Is this something you just did like once, or are you going to do that every year?
Every
Nice.
year, there's a reflection of the old dream board and then what the next one looks like. And sometimes things change, right? Sometimes you're like, oh, I don't think I need to try that anymore. Or I did try that, and now what's the next thing? So, anywhere from trips to personal growth to business to
Mhm.
our kids to everything. And we put it up on a board. It's right next to our door as we walk out of our bedroom. And so it's with our pictures and it's with past dream boards. It's just on little notes. And
Mm.
then we have a visual of it as we walk out of the bedroom door.
Yeah, I do the Stylist Soul Tribe group that I'm in. I'm going to plug this for a minute. Lisa, I hope you're listening. She does a vision casting workshop at the end of every year where we all make dream boards and stuff like that. And I think last year, I didn't attend last year, but because it was while I was out of town, but I think last year she showed everybody how to make it their like the background on their screen
Oh,
so that you're always looking at it throughout the year when you pull up your phone.
that's brilliant. We're going to figure that one out because I think that's another way. I look at on my phone, it switches like between 20 pictures, but I remember the events and the places, and that kind of confirms the dream board. But I like that idea, like having someplace other than just your notes. Yeah, to see it.
Yeah, or mine are like poster boards. My first one, they're sitting right next to me here, but the first one was like, I printed out a bunch of Pinterest pictures and glued them on. But then the second one I made on Canva, where I
Oh,
just uploaded the photos onto a poster board and then had that printed. So that one's a little bit nicer looking. But the only time I see it is when I'm in my little office here and it's there versus every single day on your phone when you're constantly being reminded of those dreams and ambitions that you have for yourself.
it's very easy to get sidetracked with
Mm.
everything that happens even on a daily basis. And so I like being able to see it. I like asking other people, like my own kids about it, which gosh, those are hard, I think, for teenagers. We'll
Mm.
get into that probably later, but just even asking that question, I think, to people in general, they're very surprised. I got to assist in helping a program that they lost their trainer. And so I was helping teach some of their lessons. And so it was like talking to somebody brand new where I could say, hey, what's your dream board? Even in just in
Mm.
horses, what is your goal here? What are your dream board here? Oh, I've never done that. And it didn't matter how old they were. They could be a young person or as old as in their 70s. And they were like, I've never been asked that, or I've never had one of those before. And
Mhm.
so that's probably one of the biggest things from both podcasts and even still today that I do in business and in personal life. But it's just, what does that board look like? What does that story look like? And I think
Mhm.
it inspires people to think about it and go, no, wait a minute, what am I doing? What do I want?
And the older that we get, the faster time goes. And so then it's like all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I haven't done this and I haven't done that. And I've wanted to do all these things. And then, but if you're making a conscious effort to do that every year, then you're probably thinking about it more. It's on your radar instead of just being like, in the future, I'll get to that.
Someday. You hear that a lot. Oh, someday I'll get there, or someday I'll have that. And it's much more tangible if you have it written and then we go back, like we mark it off or we look at it. I'm like,
Oh,
yep, we
cool.
did that. Or it's so fun to do that. And I'm with a partner now that thinks the same and has that same aspect. So when you have a teammate to do it, it's a lot more engaging because then that teammate not just holds you accountable, but then it's stuff that you can do together.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Okay, so let's back up. Because this is why I asked Cynda to come do this with me because we always have amazing conversations and we just go and go. Give us a quick update. Last time I think you were with, can I say Dan?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Dan.
I just didn't know
Yep.
if you wanted him named or not. But yeah, so you were with Dan, but since then you've gotten engaged and married. So fill us
Oh my
in.
gosh. The last podcast was, I think the first one I hadn't met him yet, but I had the dream board up. And then I had started to go online. The second one, we had already dated and then gotten engaged. And then between the last podcast and now,
Which we
sometimes,
looked back at. It aired in October of 2024,
which is when I got married to him.
but we recorded that like
Yes,
2 months
before.
before that. So if that gives anybody a
Right.
timeline of the time frame we're covering right now, it's about a year and a half.
Yeah. In a year and a half, I'm amazed sometimes. And good things, like things that were on those dream boards before they happened. This is what last year has been for me. Last year has been a personal dream board of meeting someone, getting married, having a partner, buying a home. That was the other thing. So in that time frame, married, bought a home, moved my business a couple months later, and then now I'm looking at another move. We'll get into that later, but in that time frame, and then also accomplishing all those incredible things that we wanted to do together, like
Yeah.
trips and time together and things like that. So when I'm like, wow, we can put a lot into a year and a half. And those changes seem sudden, but when that's what you'd wanted for probably all of my life, I've wanted a marriage like this. I've wanted to be back in a home that I've owned for the last decade. And it happened all at once. But yet, when you look back at your boards and what you wanted, you're like, oh, yeah, that's what I've been saying that I've wanted. So it just happened. But I
Yeah.
think
And you
that
started paying attention to those boards.
gosh, right. And you don't let life just kind of run you by and just get stuck in kind of the daily stuff, whether it's family or work or that kind of stuff. But yeah, I look at that and I'm like, if this isn't proof that having those things written down and people talk about manifesting, they talk about what's your vision, what are those things? And yet I know other people are sometimes involved. Dan reminds me of that. He goes, sometimes you can have a vision, and yet when there are other people involved, it may not go exactly the way you planned. But I always told him, I said, I think this ended up 100 times better than what I could have imagined it. There are things I say to him where I say, I couldn't have even written this down or imagined it would be this way. That's how incredible it is. And this is our relationship, right? This is the relationship I've gotten to experience for the first time in my life is being with somebody. He said, how would you describe me to them on the podcast today? And I said, you're one of my best friends and husband and teammate and lover and encourager and coach and all these things. I've never had somebody like that. I've always been that for other people.
You have. You are such like the kindest, most caring person I've ever met. And so like You, like, from what the few years that I've known you, you pour into everyone around you so much more than people pour into you. So,
Now I have that human doing that to me, and
mm,
it stops me. I'm like, wow, that this is what it feels like to have
yeah.
somebody doing that to you, or saying that to you, or encouraging you that way, or just being there.
Yeah.
I get to experience that in this last year and a half with someone, and yet we can't wait for what the next kind of year will bring.
Yeah, that makes me think of an interesting question. When you look at your first marriage
Yeah.
compared to this one, like, how do you think you ended up in that first marriage when this is what you were looking for? This is what your soul always wanted, whether you knew
Yeah.
it or not when you were
Oh,
younger,
yes. That's
right?
what confirms it. I will say, you said that beautiful word. You said, this is what your soul wanted. I completely see that now in hindsight, because I'm like, oh, yeah, I thought about that as a young girl, or I thought about that when I dreamed about marriage, or I dreamed about somebody. Here is the relationship. Why did I have to go through all of these other things? It seems like a different lifetime being a minister's wife, being in the church, and being married to somebody that just never really matched what I was, who I was, what I was about. And that's so interesting that you asked that question. When you're so young in your early 20s and you talk about integrity, or you talk about those things, I think I didn't have a lot of experience with relationships back then. He was one of my first ones, my first husband that I married. And I think the other big piece of that too was I was so involved in the church, and I was so involved in what that looked like as a servant, that I completely bought into, this is what my servant life as a wife was going to look like, because this was what was required or requested of me. And that's that world that I lived in, that whole kind of religious, whether it was Catholic or Lutheran or non-denominational. Like, I remember what that felt like to be a woman and to
Mm.
be a wife in that. And then now being on the other side of that, I'm like, wow, it's like I finally got back to what I really wanted, this whole intention behind a relationship. And Dan reminds me, he said, we had to go through the tough marriages and the things that we went through to get to this place. And we learned a lot in the process. And it's painful sometimes, but then we
Ugh.
also have to step back and say, we're so grateful, because we wouldn't be here if we didn't go through that part. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've had that conversation on this podcast of
Yeah.
we have to go through the shit to get to
Oh,
where we are. And it sucks
yes.
so bad that we have to go through the shit in order to grow. Because really, I don't want anybody in my life to struggle. I don't want to watch everybody have a hard life. But at the same time, those are the things that make us into better people at the end of the day. And so every single person I've interviewed on here has been like, no, I wouldn't change it. No, I
Yeah.
wouldn't change it. Like, even though it was the hardest fucking thing I ever went through, I wouldn't change it because it made me who I am today.
Yeah, it did. And then yet I also try to advise people now. I say, when you're looking at this, I'm asking the questions that I asked myself finally when I was 40. I'm asking them those now, those young people. I'm saying, ask yourself what you want. Ask yourself how it feels. A lot of times, what I find still is that disconnect between soul and body. So I find that people will go, okay, I want this, but my body reacts this way, and it's just in conflict. And so that's the thing to continue to join, is I'm like, your intuition and your knowing and your body and your soul, that's all that one piece. And you might be asked to do something, and I know now my body just reacts to it.
Mm.
I will stop breathing, I will hold my breath, I will tense up, it will not sound right, and then I have to stop and listen to that, which is something I didn't do in that first marriage, in that first life, that first lifetime, I would say. And that's the difference now.
I think it takes a lot of maturity and aging to start listening to your body, though, because I don't feel like I did any of that when I was in my 20s. I might have some anxiety reactions, but I just noticed it as like uncomfortable. Ew, this makes me feel icky, but not listening to it and then not paying attention to it. Where now I've been trying to do a lot more of if I get that wave of anxiety or I get that like sort of pit in my stomach, I'm like, why is that happening right now? What's triggering me? Triggering me right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. And sometimes I can't pinpoint it, and sometimes it's obvious, but yeah.
Yes. Sometimes it takes me less time now than it used
Mhm.
to. I would just push that down, that part of that. of me was just so far away. It was like I just didn't listen to any of it. I was like, nope, you
Mm,
have to do these things. And
mhm.
now you're going, no, wait a second. I use this now in business, in relationships, when I'm listening to things. More, I think this rings true for me in this last year about business. I was at two different facilities where I worked, one in Sedalia. Now I moved to Castle Rock this last May. I'm getting ready to make another move. And when you start listening to what aligns, when you start looking at your page or notes or wherever you keep them, I keep them in different places of what do I want? What does it look like? Where am I going? And does that align with what this business is doing? And when it doesn't, it clearly like bounces off each other. I've noticed that in this last facility that I was at. I told the owner finally, I said, we're not going to come to an agreement on what you want here and what I'm able to do and what I want. I said, but I encouraged him. I said, if this is the direction you want to go with your facility, I hope you find the people to do it. Thank you. And then I'm going to move on. And that's the
Mhm.
way you can end, whether it's business relationships. Sometimes I think personal friendships and things are tougher when you
Oh,
have to
yeah.
make changes, right? When you go in a different path, if you're on the
Mhm.
same one and then you go and you part in a different way. But I,
Especially family.
oh, God,
Friendships are a little bit easier because you can just break off at some point, but
man.
family is really hard.
Yes, especially when you see them hurting or struggling.
Mm,
Or I think I've talked about Cooper a little bit. My son took the divorce the hardest. My daughter took it in a way where she was like, all right, moving on. And she was
mhm,
ready for those next chapters. And my son, he's had a couple years of struggle with whether it's substances, making decisions, all of those things, school. I've seen the effects of what something does to someone, even at such a young age. Divorce hit him between the age of 10 and 10 years old, and now he's 18. And I
mm,
still see those struggles. And my hope for him is that he builds a life and a path that learns from at a young age that hardship,
mm.
which, oh my gosh, I don't wish that on any child, let alone any family member.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's really hard. One of the themes that came up for me a lot this year is being true to yourself and authentic to yourself. So I was thinking as you were talking about the business decisions that you're making right now, like how has that changed from business decisions you've made in the past? Because now you're like, this is what I want, this is what I want to be, instead of making sacrifices for everyone else, because you also have people pleaser tendencies like me. So, like, how does that feel to you to be like, no, this is what I want, this is how I run it, this is where I want to be? Like, what does that feel like to you? Hi, friend, and welcome to this episode of Radiant Resilience. We are always looking for new guests on the podcast. I want to highlight you if you have a story of resilience that inspires others. Everyone has a story, and I believe that sharing yours can help others feel less alone. Are you ready to share your journey and inspire others? I want to hear from you. Every story has the power to impact lives and foster a supportive community. If you have a tale of overcoming adversity, personal growth, or a unique perspective on life's challenges, I would love to have you as a guest on the podcast. To become a guest, please email us directly at radiantresiliencepodcast@gmail.com or click the link in the show notes to become a guest. Join us in spreading hope, strength, and inspiration one story at a time. Be brave and share your story so others feel less alone. I hope to see you soon.
Oh my gosh. I think for over half of 25 years is how long I've been a trainer, 25 years, quarter of a century. When you kind of look back at that and you're like, wow, I look at that and I go, I made a lot of different decisions leading up to it was about the halfway point. Actually, it was about the same after the divorce. I felt like I was treating my business the same way I was that first marriage. I
Mm,
looked at that and I was like, wow, I was really accommodating. I didn't listen to what I wanted. I didn't direct things in a way that helped me accomplish the things I wanted. It was just complete service. And so now when I look at business, that would be 2017. So from about 2017, you go through those changes until about 2019. I think I finally started to change prices and change ways. And now, like people pleasing, you said that word. I think I used to pretty much try to accommodate anybody and help anybody with their horse or themselves. And I would do it to my own detriment. I would do it that it would devalue my own time for myself, my family, what I got paid for it. And that's still a habit. I will say that's probably my biggest challenge is still catching myself not working for nothing in that sense and not valuing my time and myself. That's a big one on my list that I have to keep as a high priority because it just gets overrun with my desire to help people.
Yeah, it's so easy to do when you're in industry. I feel like our industries are similar in the sense that I have one-on-one connections with all my clients. So do you. It's not like serving in a restaurant where there's lots of people coming in and out.
Right.
Like it's a one-on-one relationship and that makes it very difficult sometimes for me at least to say no to people. And then all of a sudden you're working crazy hours and you're not charging what you should and then you're just draining yourself in
Yeah.
that.
Chasing, running, accommodating. And it did take this last facility that I'm at, them coming to me and saying, they wanted more money, they wanted more from me. And I was like, wait a second. I'm not in a position where I want to give more of what I'm already doing and do it for a quarter of the money that I've been doing it for. And so that's helpful when you run in. It's almost like a test in a way. Do you ever feel like sometimes things are a test
All
where,
the time.
right, where they're like, we want this. And I'm like, you know what? In this entire conversation, in this last business relationship, not once did they ask me what I wanted. Not once
Mm,
did they say, what's gonna help you be happy here in those kind of situations? And so when I stepped back and getting ready to make another move and move my entire horse business to another facility, I just wrote, I had those lists of what exactly I wanted and how I wanted it. And I would not change those. That was the thing that was happening was I would change just based on what somebody wanted to accommodate for it. And that's probably my biggest challenge, I would say, when you're talking about self-reflection. What do you want to get better at? Those boundaries, I would say, the boundaries of business in that sense where you're moving forward and you're keeping those things in mind. It's not that you stop helping people, it's
right.
that you just go, there are some things I can do, and there's some things that I have to be mindful of if they take me off that path
Mm.
of what I want. And that's a challenge for me. I would say that is the biggest challenge I have faced and that I want to get better at. My husband and my daughter are very good at going, "Hey, have you done this? Have you put this contract in place? And why are you helping them? We know that you love people and you want to help them."
I think in my mind, I start to question myself. I don't trust that I know what's best for me, I think is the best way to put it. I'm like, maybe I'm being unreasonable by asking for this much, or maybe I'm out of line and that's ridiculous for this industry for me to do that. I question it and then I talk myself down because I'm like, I don't know, it's easier to do that than to lift myself up
It
sometimes.
is. I'm my toughest critic still. I think Dan would say that
Hmm.
too. He goes, we are both that way as coaches because he's him being a former coach, a current coach in ways. And we're still the toughest on ourselves. And it's fun though now because I catch him doing it and then he'll maybe catch me doing it. And he's like, you know what, you're right. I don't have enough grace for myself in this sense. I don't
Mm,
have enough value in myself. And so it's fun being around a husband and a daughter actually that are just so strong and saying, look, you are every word I ever said to myself on an affirmation page. When I was alone doing this, and this was probably the first podcast coming out of that first marriage, I was like, wow, I had to tell myself these things. And you're right,
mm,
that doubt or the people in your life wouldn't affirm that for you. Now
mm.
I'm in a place where I have two people that are like, wait a second, these are the type of people you want in your life to affirm what that list is. And it's tough when you're in the service industry running your own business, isn't it? Because you're your own boss. And so you're the one that's pouring out in a sense, and you're
And you
going,
can't blame anybody else.
nope. You're like, oh, that decision didn't go well, or that maybe could go differently. I think you and I are good that we reflect on that, though. I think we reflect on saying, how would I make a different choice, or would I do it the same? And how would that outcome be? I think there's a lot of reflection when you own your own business for sure.
Yeah. And then I wanted to go back to the helping others. I think that there's some major truth to when it's like you're a better mom when you take care of yourself. When
Yeah.
you are selfish and you do a little bit of like self-care and stuff like that, you're a better mom to your kids versus putting yourself completely on the back burner and focusing 100% on the kids or whatever. I don't know. I think it's the same in our industries too. It's like probably we do a better service
Yes.
when we've taken care of ourselves too.
I,
Same with therapists, I imagine. If
they're
they're doing therapy themselves and taking care of themselves, they can probably help their clients a lot better than if not.
right. I agree. I can only imagine that would be very similar to our business. I know we don't have degrees in counseling and things like that, but I think right? There, people are like, "Oh, what'd you do to become a horse trainer?" I'm like, my college degree has a lot of classes that I took that assist in maybe helping the business side or the accounting side or the marketing side and that kind of stuff. But I'm like, man, there is a lot more psychology behind relationships, especially in the service industry when you're a coach or even for you, having people sit in your chair is very intimate in a way
Yeah.
that they might show up and go, man, I just had a loss or a death, or I had this, or I have a child that's hurting, or and it's you step outside your box of being a hairstylist or a horse trainer and you're like, okay, my my human side, that compassionate side, you listen very well. And I'm always encouraged when I come sit with you is because I hear what you're going through and it's almost like fuel and encouragement to come back and go, this is how I would help this situation because of the experiences that you've had.
That
Yeah.
makes me feel so good. Thank you.
Not just a hairstylist lady.
No, and I say that all the time because I think people are fascinating. I just think we all have a lived story, right? Every single person is who they are because of their story. And I'm the person that when I go to the airport, I want to know like where everyone's going, what they're doing. Is that person traveling for work? Is that person traveling for going to see family? Are they going on a big vacation they've never done before? Are they like, and I feel that's the best way I can describe like how I feel about humans in general. I just think everyone is fascinating. And I'm like, oh, I should have been a psychologist, not a psychiatrist. I think
Both, there's
that's
both actually, right? Because there's one that's a doctorate and then one that's not. But yeah,
yeah, but like I just because I think people are fascinating and I love to talk about this stuff. And then people are like, "Yeah, you should." And I'm like, "I half am."
yeah.
Without
You're
the training.
Do you remember in when you were going through training for being a stylist, do you remember them talking about whether it was customer care or service or how you talk? You've probably gradually over time done more and more through all the education, the continuing education, the self-work, all the stuff that you've done. That's probably where the life education comes in to then even do your job better. It's not just, you probably don't remember sitting down and them going, all right, this is how they're going to sit in your chair or this
They
is
did
how
tell
you-"
me, they did tell me in beauty school, they said, you guys are psychologists. Like,
Oh,
people will
wow.
dump on you,
That's
people
so nice.
will share their whole life story with you. And it has happened. But I think that's right. I think I've gotten better at handling it because there's sometimes I walked away from appointments where they were so heavy. I was like, oh dear, I need to go have a cocktail or something.
I go stand in the sun and breathe or go, you're right. I'll come home sometimes and people will share that. You're exactly right though. People will share if their marriages are ending or if their child passed away or, hey, I'm going to have to move or those things. And it's just stopping, even just having the recognition of compassion, but that
Mm,
heaviness, it's tough. I used to take it on. I don't know if you realize that for you sometimes. I know some of my clients I would take on that burden of kind of life and things that they were going through and yet I kind of have learned over time that you go, it's not mine. What can I do for this situation if not just listen but shed light? Be
mm,
that light and love and that hope, like telling the stories on your podcast. It's not that we don't face any more challenges. It's not that I that things are, I wouldn't use the word easy. They're chapters, they're eras, they're different things that you face and you turn those pages. And as I look back on those, right, you're going, how can this help people? And I
mm.
think that's what both of us do in our job descriptions in our industry is what we probably both do for people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. It's tough. I had a girl one time during COVID. It was like right in the midst of COVID, and she sat in my chair and went on and on about the vaccine and conspiracy theories. And she was like looking me straight in the eye and saying, do not get that vaccine, Tawny. And it was like, because she kept stopping me to make her points, like that's how aggressively she was talking to me. It took me like 3 hours to foil her hair or something ridiculous. It was way longer than it should have been.
It was tiring.
Yeah. And so then I got done and I literally went in my car and cried.
Oh, yes.
Because and that's just another example, like without getting too much into politics and all that stuff. Like the point is, that's just a good example of somebody completely unloading on me. And COVID was already a heavy time. So when you and I are also going through our own tough times, then it's also even harder sometimes to take on other people's stuff. But we also don't necessarily want to dump our stuff on other people. So they don't always know either. So yeah, it's a tough balance for sure.
It's hard. You learn energetically how things come to you, whether they come at you. It felt like that conversation you had with her, she was just coming like at you,
Mm,
whether it was in the
that's true.
mirror, right? It was like, you're like, whoa, how do I manage this type of energy. Or you look at some people and it comes, a lot of times it's not about you. Like I've noticed that one of the things that Dan and I talk about our relationship, if we've had a tough day and maybe a tone is off when we're talking to each other or
Mm.
how something comes out, our biggest thing that we set up in the beginning was, hey, are you okay? Did
Mm.
something happen? Are you okay? Because most of the time, like if we have a conversation like that, or if I have a conversation, I know that's what I'm bringing home sometimes to my family is something heavy about a friend that I've known for a long time in the industry that had something happen. And so they actually are getting better at noticing. It's amazing how you can influence even the people in your circle of going, hey, start recognizing things, be aware. That's a big word.
Mm.
Being aware that there are other things at play here. When you gain clients, when you lose clients, I think you would
Oh.
say the same thing, right? You'd say, maybe this isn't about me so much and not taking that personally or against you, but just going, okay, there's something either protection wise happening while they're leaving this kind of circle of being in my life. And then the rest of the people that would walk in after that energy kind of leaves. I think we've talked about that on other podcasts too. Letting go. You've talked about that. What one of your questions was, what would you look back on and let go of in the last year? That's a good question. What
Yeah,
would you
go for it. Yeah.
what would you look back and let go of? One of the things you said was how people and how stories can trigger you.
Mm.
That's something that still comes up when you go through a certain amount of trauma and things like that. I never ask why it's resurfacing. I usually just say, okay, what triggered it? And then how am I going to process through this and not let it cause sleepless nights? One of the examples would be working, there was a manager at a former ranch that started to just literally flat out lie about who I was, about what I did in the industry, about how I cared for horses and people, and such ridiculous lies that I finally started aiming questions back at those people telling me. And I said, "And your experience with me, is that who you think I am? Is or do you believe those things based on what you experienced being with me?" And so I started reflecting and telling people how to test truth. That was a big one.
Mm.
How to test truth and how to ask those questions, because in all of that situation I could do nothing about what this person was saying about my reputation other than hope that truth was revealed, address it truthfully when people asked me those things, and
Mhm.
then also ask them, what's your experience with me? Does that seem
Mm.
like that's something that I would say or do? And they had, a lot of them were close relationships with horses, and so I think they also learned how to tell truth and how to trust or question, maybe I would say. That's a big piece of coming out of that first marriage, I would say is important to me, is truth. Is when people are speaking to me, and even in business with this last facility, I'm like, I don't feel like this is completely truthful how they're asking me to be here. And I
Mm.
questioned that. And I said, this is operating out of kind of integrity of truth. And so that's a big word, I would say, going into this next year that's still going to be a part of what I see in the future.
And I think that brings us back to authenticity. This is right. Like you are your authentic self, and then that person was telling lies about you to other people, and you're like, hey, is
Yeah.
that your experience with me? Because that's not who I am.
That's a hard one, isn't it? That's a, you want to say, why are you doing this? Or why are they doing that? You have these conversations about those things. And it's less, it appears to be less about you and who you are and more about them. And yet you're like, but it's not truth. They're not saying things that I've ever done or how I've treated people, especially horses. And when you're talking about what I do for a living, it's something, I'm in horses' lives every single day, more so than people. And so that hurts. It's very hard to hear things that hurt, especially whenever they're not true. And you just question, like you said, you're like, sometimes I question myself for my value or what I'm doing. And you question the industry sometimes, I question that. And yet you go back to just making sure that you're going, what do I want, was probably one of the biggest questions I've continued to ask since that first marriage. What do
Mm.
I want? And it gets tested. That's, I'd say, a question that gets tested. Does that align with what I want? And if
Mm.
it doesn't, it's actually okay. You can go in a different direction. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I want to leave. I want to trust myself more. I don't know, because I just the other day, it's amazing how these like epiphanies drop in, right? Nothing was happening. I think I was just like hanging out on the couch with Colin. We were watching sports or something, and
Right.
all of a sudden it like just dropped into my head. And not that this was something new to me, but it
Yeah.
was just like all of a sudden it dropped in and it felt so profound.
Yeah.
in that moment. So I guess just I've always felt like I needed others' validation for my feelings.
Right. Oh yeah.
So when I am hurting or someone has hurt me, I always feel like I need others to tell me, yeah, you're totally justified in that, versus being like, no, to myself, I actually am hurting and that's okay.
Yeah. That's
Regardless, like it's okay that you're hurting because that is what happened. I frequently sought other people out to tell my side of the story or whatever. I felt the need to do that. And I don't want to feel that need anymore. I want to be like confident in the fact that I'm feeling what I'm feeling and it's okay. It's okay to have my feelings hurt. It's okay to be angry about that. It's okay to be sad about that. But yeah, I just realized that I don't trust my own feelings.
no, that's a big one to recognize, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, it's huge. And I was like, oh my God. And like I said, it wasn't news to me. That's something I've been doing my whole life is not trusting myself. But it just fell in all of a sudden. It was like heavy. And I was like, oh crap.
That's a good one though. That's when I call them those downloads that happen sometimes. Like
Yes.
you're just going, wow, that one kind of hit me. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to think about that one for a while. I think the one thing that I've learned in the last little bit of this life kind of chapters is it's okay to feel that heaviness and that hurt and yet still allow the light and the joy at the same time. I think that's what my struggle
Mm,
was. People were like, time will heal or time will this. And I'm like, you know what? Time and healing, I would say is intentional. I would say it's not so much because you can do nothing with the time that you have and not work on yourself and not trust and not heal and those things, or you can be intentional about what you're saying. And I think that when I look at healing and I look at love and I look at those things, those are very intentional. Those I think I don't struggle with giving that and wanting that peace for myself and for others. But that's something I would say you're right. Trusting your own feelings is a hard one. Trusting your own intuition. And it's not even just your own intuition about what you should be doing or want. It's trusting your feelings. That's a big one. Wow,
mhm.
Tawny. That's a big one. That's a whole show.
I know. I was just like, I don't know. And like I said, it wasn't news. It was just like, you
Yeah.
need to listen to this now. Like, you need to take action on this because, and I think that's part of the people pleaser in me, but I also think some of it is self-awareness, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because I do think when we get in fights with other people or people hurt your feelings or you have any type of disagreements or whatever, I try to look at myself and I try to be objective and I try to be like, okay, what could I have done differently in this situation? What did I contribute to this fight or whatever's happening? But which I think is a good thing. It's good to have that self-awareness.
Yeah.
I just need to stop questioning the feelings.
It's okay to be angry. That was a big one. It's okay to be disappointed. In this process of this next move, I felt myself bottling up all
Mm,
of my frustrations and disappointment about why this last facility didn't work out. And so I think it was like 10 o'clock at night and I'm sitting in bed and Dan's like half asleep and I just pulled my phone out and I was like, I'm just gonna write all this down. Like I wrote every emotion, feeling,
mm,
thing down about this last 6 months or experience. And then the next kind of chapter, the next section under that note was, what am I looking forward to? What am I looking forward to in
mm.
this new facility or this new place of business? But I had to write it. I had to acknowledge it because it was just, my family could even tell. They were like, man, you just look worried or stressed or tired. And I
Mm,
would say, yep, I'm all of those things. And I had to say, I'm just going to get this on a piece of paper now. And I'm going
mm.
to acknowledging it was a big piece of what you did on the couch. I just
Yeah.
to acknowledge that this is okay to have these feelings. And then what came from that was that I let those go in a sense where I said, okay, what is going to come in? What is going to help or heal? Or what is the future of that? Did anything happen? I was curious. Did anything happen after you acknowledged that?
Yeah, there's a few things that I've acknowledged, like that happened this year that I was, okay, that's one of those moments where I haven't felt like and my intuition is usually pretty spot on and I'm very smart and I'm not an idiot, but I do still question sometimes. Maybe I'm being unreasonable. But usually it turns out that with whatever's happening, the truth comes out eventually. And then I'm like, what? I knew that.
Why
You
didn't I just
know?
tell myself it was okay or acknowledge that? Yeah, well, that's a big one. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And
that's a
it's hard
lesson I
to,
still learn.
I think it's hard to admit when you're hurting too sometimes because we want to be tough and we want to, especially in this world that I've thrown myself in with this podcast of all these amazing people who have gone through hard shit and made it out to the other side and have transformed amazingly. It's like we think that there's an end to this healing, but there's not because life is going to keep happening to us.
You are so right. You are right. There's the challenges still come. I think our perspective, outlook, and the work you've done continues to help it. I don't think I had any tools or any way to support myself that first marriage, that first coming out of
Mm.
college and going into that. And now, and I still read stuff. I read a Laura Lynn Jackson book. It was talking about being guided, and it was talking about there's so much more going on in the world on then that's not even just on this human level. And it was
Yeah.
talking about there are teams of light, there are ways that you are encouraged by a memory or something that you see or things like that. And it's like what you said, being aware. Glennon Doyle is still one of our favorites. I think we can do hard things. I have that question always pop up. What is the truest and most beautiful story you can imagine? Because if you don't
Mhm.
imagine it, it's amazing how much you just stay almost in that darkness. You stay in that grief and those kinds of things. And yet, those are the questions, even if you don't have the answer to it yet. Sometimes I don't have the answer to it, but it's still
Mhm.
there. It's still definitely a piece that I want to keep doing in the next year, imagining that, because if anything, I've gotten to experience what that imagination brought forth in a relationship and a home and what I wanted for my business and those kinds of things. There's proof, right? There's
Yeah.
proof right there that you're going, I can still continue this, and it's just going to be different chapters of it.
I was doing an interview on here. I don't, it was with Crystal Harrell. I don't remember exactly what episode it was or when it came out, but one of the things that she said to me that really stuck with me, and I feel like I want it to be my theme for 2026, is soul alchemy.
Oh, it's good. Those are two good words, by the way.
I
Yeah.
just think about that. I'm like, I think I went and looked up what the actual definition of alchemy was.
Yeah. I looked
And
it up a
it's,
while back. What were the words
um,
that explained it? What did you like about that word? From a biology perspective and from a science perspective, it's pretty amazing just internally the body and the chemistry and the alchemy and things like that. Coming on a soul level, that's a great word. What did you come up with?
yeah, well, I'm trying to find my,
Your notes.
oh, here we go. Alchemy definition explained on Chat GPT, everyone. Because it's like my favorite best friend.
Yes.
It says alchemy is the practice of transforming one thing into another. Most famously, the attempt to turn base metals into gold, but it also refers to inner spiritual transformation. Some words were like some synonyms: chemistry, philosophy, mysticism, medicine, astrology. Alchemists believed that all matter contained a spirit and could be purified or elevated. Let's see.
Transformation, those are big words, right? Transformation,
Mhm.
light. There's different, gosh, how many different types of think of all the people in the books and whether they're religious or not. Like you always talk about the soul and transformation. And that's a good one. It's encouraging because I'm like, Dan even asked me that. He's like, what are your words? He goes, you've got words for 2025. What are your words? What are your aspirations for those words for 2026? That would be yours, huh? Soul alchemy.
I think so. I think that's gonna, maybe that'll go on my vision board, just those words. I don't really know exactly what that means for me, but I don't know. It just really resonated with me and has stuck with me ever since. So that, and then the authenticity. I want to keep working towards being, I think, true to my feelings, true to myself, trusting myself, loving myself, continuing that journey because I really do think that my infertility took a piece of my soul in that regard because it was my body that was supposed to be doing all of those things that did not do the things it was supposed to do. And so it's been very easy for me to blame myself, be mad at myself, be angry at my body, hate my body, all of
Yeah.
those things. And I still fall into that spiral every once in a while of like, why the fuck did this not work? And it's still, I'm not preventing everyone because everybody
Yeah.
needs to know that, but I'm not seeking out treatment or anything like that. But I'm just like, it seems to happen for everybody else at some point, and my body couldn't make it happen. And it's easier to blame myself and my body than it is to blame anybody else because I don't have any control over anybody else. So I just really heavily Myself and the universe, I'm not gonna lie. I still have a lot of anger and stuff towards that, but
You should,
um,
it's okay. I like that you're saying it out loud though, because I think I even catch my own kids. My son went through a relationship, a tough breakup, and I'm just not going to think about it. I'm not going to message her
mm,
back. I'm not going to do these things. And I thought about it. Not that my 18-year-old would listen to his mom, but I just said, what would happen if you acknowledged that hurt and you allowed that, whether because she, I think, was reaching out to try to talk to him. And I said, what would be wrong with you acknowledging that and telling her how hurtful it
mm,
was and how much it did change your life? And you may be closing a chapter and being at peace about that. And so I'm trying to influence my son and my daughter who may not get it for a while, but that's okay. That's different advice that I don't know that I would have given that advice years ago. I think nowadays people are like, nope, just leave it, just cut it off, just don't even go attend to it. But that sits, it just stays
it
with
doesn't
us.
go away. You're just put kicking the can down the road. You're gonna
Yep.
have to face those feelings. Like maybe he doesn't have to face the actual breakup 5 years from now, but that has made a lasting impression on him, and he's gonna deal with that at some point.
At some point. And that's it helps. Does it ever help you? Like I find by acknowledging somebody else's stuff and maybe giving that advice that's the complete opposite of what anybody would say to them, that then in turn helps me if I come up with situations like that, like what you're saying, when I'm dealing with the anger of how somebody lied about who I was and how hurtful it was, taking a breath and closing my eyes and going, wait, what is the truth here? What do I know the truth is? And what do I believe? Because sometimes it's really tricky. People believe things, and it's easy sometimes to believe it about yourself. Like what you're saying, is it my fault that those things didn't work out with my fertility and being a mom? And then coming to terms with that. But yeah, anger is a real thing. I was going to say, what's your outlet for some of these things? What are sometimes it's going outside, taking a walk, or
Yeah.
planting something, or physically doing something with my hands. Animals are big in my life. That was one thing I
Hmm.
know that might be something we'll talk about. How do you heal or how do you manage when these things surface like anger? I would say animals are a big piece of that. For me, they always have been. I talked about horses healing and dogs and things like that. I think they're still a big part of that for me. What would it be for you?
Oh man, I have found this is really funny because I hated running when I was in high school, but I've never been like a runner, but I guess in the last couple years have started. I run like 1 or 2 days a week and not long. They're like, I don't know, 20, 30 minute runs, so it's not anything crazy. I'm not trying to run a marathon or anything, but I have found that to be extremely like meditative and like therapeutic, and a lot of things have dropped in for me while doing that, whether I'm while it's listening to a podcast or music or whatever while I'm running. I just get into this really like deep meditative state. And then I think that helps. Plus, if I'm really anxious or angry, then the activity helps burn off that energy.
It's, doesn't it?
But I also have been trying to do more and more journaling because I do, like you were saying, when you like write it all out and you get it out, like I think that's the problem with when I wake up at 3 a.m. thinking about things and worrying about things is that it's just sitting in me. And then I just try to roll around in bed until it goes away. But I should probably get up and write it all down and put it all out there because get it out, I think, has helped me a lot. And then, like you said, I think just doing these podcasts and I've learned something from every person I've talked to on here. Like, that I can apply to my own healing. That's been pretty amazing too, because I'll be sitting here doing an interview and then I'll say something or they'll say something and I'm like, oh my God, yeah,
That
okay, that works for me too.
That's the most amazing thing I think I've realized out of podcasts is that when you have exchange, and I think we learned that by listening, we'd always talk about we can do hard things, and we'd always talk
Mhm.
about the people that she would have on there and the experiences they had, and then seeing that even when we saw them in person, they didn't have it all figured out and put together. Like Glennon talked about her struggles and Abby and this kind of thing, and yet they sat up there on that stage with such joy and sharing those experiences like it was kind of like a Taylor Swift concert. I knew Taylor, my daughter, is into Taylor Swift, and I finally watched one of her concerts and I watched one of her Taylor Swift's kind of behind the scenes, and I was
Mhm.
like, wow, what it's an experience like a podcast is, like a concert
Mhm.
is, and those kinds of things that kind of influence your life. It's incredible the people that you've had on. I've gone back and listened to the people that you've had on. It's amazing that they've gone through what they've gone through and you're excited about where they're going and that what they've managed it, and it almost encourages you to do it at the same time.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that's what happens. I feel like a couple of your things touched on this question I'm going to ask you. How did the collective energy of 2025 affect you personally?
I would say overall, though, I would call it a very, it still had its challenges, but I would say joy and gratitude, and then confirming those dream boards and those things that I imagined that life would be. That's, I've got to experience that in the last like year and a half. Like that, I would say as a collective energy wise, am I still working? And I still want my business to go in a direction that quite hasn't quite come to be. And that's probably
Mm,
my focus for the next year. But I would say for this last year, energetically and how it affected me, it was light and joy and love. Like that, I've
mm,
gotten to experience a relationship that has just infused me or and he resonates the words that I have said to myself, he says them out loud. So
mm,
it's an amazing look back at the energy of this last year in spite of some of those challenges, that I've got someone in my life that I've always
mm.
wanted to have that experience with, and now that we can keep going forward together. That's the other fun part about that too.
Yeah, I would say 2025 was really hard and heavy for a lot of people. So when we're talking about the collective energy,
Yes.
there's a lot of hard shit going on in the world aside from even the personal side of things. And then I just know so many people that have gone through some of the hardest stuff they've ever had to go through in their lives. And I recently saw on like Instagram that 2025 was the year of the snake.
Yeah, it was. That's
Yeah, so that's what everybody's saying. Year of the snake. That's why everything was so hard. And
yeah.
then I think 2026 is year of the horse. Is that
Year of
correct?
the horse. Yes, it is. That's exciting because
Yeah.
my client told me that the other day. She's like, the next year is year of the horse. I was like, finally. Like,
Ah! So hopefully that's going to be a good thing as
right.
somebody who
Hopefully
knows
that's a good
horses.
thing. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd say horses bring a lot of energy and knowing. Like, I think still in my business, when I see how horses take care of people, I see them with high anxiety people, autistic people,
Mhm.
people that have fears, those kinds of things. And it's amazing to watch a horse process those things and help people either need to see reflection in themselves, or
Mm.
how to manage their anxiety, or how to see the light or the gratitude or those kinds of things. It's fun to still see this vessel as a horse do that. So I'd be interested to read up on what the year of the horse is going to be.
I know. I hope it's better for more people because, like I said, I just know I didn't personally go through anything horrendous, but I know a lot of people that have, and like a lot of really hard shit this year. And that's, again, even aside from all the world things that are happening.
When you open it up to that perspective, that was something. I think that that was one of the quotes I just read in one of the books Laura Lynn Jackson talked about. She just said, and I'll read it actually, it's on my phone. I've been sending it to a few people, and it just says, do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things
Mm,
break, and all things that can be, or all things can be mended, not with
mm,
time, as they say, but with intention. So love intentionally, love extravagantly, and love unconditionally. The broken world awaits in darkness the light that is you. And yeah,
mm,
that was a big quote that hit me in this book. She read it at the end of one of her chapters. And I was like, I still believe that about myself. I still believe that my gift is in horses, but
mm,
more importantly, that the gift is light. And the gift
mm.
is, even if something is challenging in my own life, I think that you're that light for people as well. I think that there
Oh,
are people that carry light. I think
mhm.
that there are people that reflect it. I think that there are people that navigate something for someone in a direction of seeing it in a different way. And I do
Yeah.
think that that resonates with me, that quote when it talks about the world awaits the light that is you. And
Mm.
that resonated pretty unconditionally. And that the world is still going to have those broken moments, especially when you think about the big things that are going on and impacting people.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And then, like I said, you add that combined with all the other shit people are going through, and it's just, it's hard. This life is hard right now.
Yes. So
So,
what do you have? What is that one of the things? What is the I know we're coming up on New Year's and people talk about New Year's resolutions. I don't look at it necessarily as a resolution as much as I still say, what is that beautiful story I can imagine about 2026? What is your beautiful story you can imagine about 2026?
oh, I guess 2026 coming
Yeah.
up. What is my
Yeah.
beautiful
Yeah.
story?
That's something I'm continuing to work on. I have some things
Man.
written down for it. I think the other thing I didn't mention was like, it's not just intention, but it's an openness. When you're
Mm,
open to what can come in, or what you're aware. You use the word aware, I'd say the word openness as well.
mm,
It's amazing what will come in, whether that's people or situations, or that's I think the exciting thing. If I look at 2026, I would say I want to remain open to not just what gifts I bring, but to what would come in for me as well.
I feel like I need to do more self-help.
So,
Being open to what comes in for myself too. But yes, I don't know, man. 2026, I just want peace, I think.
yeah, I said that word too.
I want to feel peace and I want to hold on to it because in 2025, there were times I found peace and it felt so good.
Yes.
And then it went away. And so I want to figure out how to hold on to that peace better. I want to have less attachments to outcomes, to people, I just want to, like you said, I want to be a light in the world. I want to be my authentic self. I want to trust myself. And yeah, I just like, and then I feel like the rest will come.
That you talk about that. It's a wonderful feeling, like when you feel a sense of peace about things, when you can
Mm,
just breathe, and that I can go to work and sometimes things get rattled by
mm.
situation. And most of the time, it's interesting. I always see horses, like it's been the holiday season, and so horses have just been out of their minds. Like they're
Because
spooked.
everyone else is out of their minds.
Right? But like they're like the humans, like I one lesson I taught, I was like, this feels like I'm walking through the mall during holiday shopping season and people are
Whoa.
just chaotic. And so I walked into the arena and I was like, whoa, and these are 1,000-pound animals, right? And so that are normally flight animals. And so I could feel that tension and that energy. But I love that what you described. You said, I want to feel that sense of peace. How do I hold on to that? Or how do I allow that to keep coming into my life in that way?
Hard because our everyday living is busy and we feel like we have to be productive all the time and we have to do all these things and then life gets busy and then life also happens, hard stuff happens and then you're just thrown off your rocker. And it's so for me I find it very difficult to get back to that unless I go on vacation.
Yes. Those are huge, aren't they? Those, even if you're just even leaving, what, an hour or 2 hours, that's what Dan and I found. We'll go somewhere for 2 hours and just have enough separation from everything that's going
Mm.
on. I have found that's very helpful. Being intentional about setting trips up, and I know you and your husband are good that way too. When you set those, I don't think people do that. I think they set aside sanction time. This is your vacation, or this is this, and you go on this with your family and do this. But when do you actually set aside time for yourself or for your loved one, right? That you love being with Colin and you're going, and for me, it's with Dan. When we set those things on the calendar, we know we're going to get time to rest, time to
Mhm.
set stuff down, time to sit there and ask each other these questions or answer these questions or read. That's really important. Like that, I think if I would encourage anyone and myself to continue to do would be set specific trips aside like that. They can be a day, 2 days, 3 days. You get to go sometimes, what, 3 to 6 weeks at a time, right? You get
Yeah,
to,
I'm going for 5 weeks here soon.
man, can you imagine the possibilities of what would open up for you in those 5 weeks? What you get to let go of, what do you get to manage, and what you get to look forward to? Oh, yeah.
It helps to be completely disconnected from life too, which is good and bad, right? I feel because then I have to come back to real life, right? And that's where I'm like, I find the peace on
Yeah.
these journeys, and then I come back to real life and I lose the peace.
How do you merge
Like,
the two?
how do you merge the two? Yeah, because when I go, I don't have to worry about work. I don't
Yeah.
have to worry about family because there's nothing I can do because I'm in a different fucking time zone. Like, I can't do anything for any of these people. And I'm going and I'm just doing what we want to do
Yeah.
and living our best lives doing it. And so it tends to be so healing. And then when the world gets quiet like that, which is very hard too, then the processing happens. So then I feel like I really realized this when we went to Kyrgyzstan in September. I did a ton of processing on that trip. I don't know why or how or whatever, but it all came flowing in. And I realized like how much I wasn't processing and how much I was just holding on to and ignoring because it's easy to get distracted by everyday life and not have to process it all and everything. And then I feel like I finally get to a point in those trips where I'm like, okay, I did it. I can finally like move forward now. And
Yes.
then I come back to real life and
Yeah.
then I go backwards, it feels like. I probably don't, but it feels like.
That's the challenge I've always said is I want to be able to merge the two. How do I make a dream board, or how do I merge the two And I think we've touched on a couple of those things. You're like, okay, I have to have those same intentions for myself that I have on that vacation time. And that's what overruns for me is you come back and it's the laundry and the dishes and the appointments and the kids and the stuff.
Yeah.
And okay, when did I carve out that little bit of time for you? It said for a little bit, it's like running can help you in
Mhm.
the interim, always finding something. For Dan, I would say it'd be photography. I would say for 2026, I'm in the same spot as you are. How do I merge how I feel on those times when I'm on vacation with my everyday life to where it supports itself ongoing? It's not just okay, I took my vacation, I did it, I came back, oh no, I'm back again. And it's just matched like you're going back and forth in life.
And maybe it comes back to because we come back to work and all the responsible things. Like maybe that also comes back to what you were saying earlier about like having those boundaries, working the schedule you want, charging what you're like maybe if you were doing all of
It
those things the way you should
It
be,
does.
it
You
wouldn't
wouldn't have to
feel
escape.
as overwhelming and drowning. And again, there's a lot of stuff that are outside of your control. You're still going to have run-ins with clients. You're still going to have hard things. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you merge the
That
two.
would be
It's really hard.
that would be, I think, on my list for myself for 2026. It would be it does start with the boundaries. I do believe that. It does start with the valuing. It does start with saying, okay, if I can't help this person, even though I want to, I just can't compromise myself in order to do it. And
Mm.
that's a hard balance because I think in genuineness and kindness and wanting to help people, like you want to, but then it takes its toll, doesn't it, when you're doing that. So I would say that would be on my list. It would be setting up those boundaries, valuing myself, not allowing myself to get so overrun that I have to leave in order to drop it all and then come back to it. Do you ever find in those trips though, when you do come back, there are certain things you don't pick up? Like there are things that you carried before your trip that you were doing.
Mm.
And then I go away on my trip. I'm like, why was I doing that? Why do I need that? Nope, I don't need that in my life. So I come back and I go, nope, not going to spend time doing it. I find myself in those trips, there are some positives where I come back and I say, I don't want to do that. It's very
Mhm.
clear. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
It's very clear. Like
Yeah.
it gets it more clear. It gives it more clarity to what you do want.
Yeah, I think that definitely happens too. You leave stuff behind for sure, and you're like, okay, I want to do this differently. I remember when we went to Guatemala, I think that was almost 3 years ago now. Crazy. Colin and I got in a really good exercise routine while we were there. And I remember that being like when I came home, I was like, okay, I don't enjoy exercise like he does, but I know I need to do it. I know it's good for me. And that was one of the things I came back where I was like, I'm going to leave the laziness in the past. And this is what I want to do. This is what I want my life to look like. So I've definitely done better. I have my moments where I still fall off the wagon, but like I've done since that trip because I made that decision in my mind of I want the future to look like this. And then I took the steps to make sure that it happened. I'm like, okay, and I think that's also comes with learning about yourself too. I learned what worked for me, and exercise is a simple thing. A lot of stuff we're talking about is heavier than that, but I feel like it still applies. I needed to figure out what was going to work to help me be consistent.
Yeah.
And and then make the steps and make the conscious effort. And now it's like I said, when I do fall off the wagon and I was recently super sick and I like didn't work out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks or something like
Yeah.
that, which was really unusual for me. But then I just recently, I was like, okay, I need to get serious again. And I hopped back on it and now I'm back in a routine and then I'm going to leave town again. But Colin always makes me exercise on vacation. So that will
You're like,
continue.
it's coming up. I have 5 weeks of Colin accountability.
I'm sure I'll be running the beach quite frequently and
Wow. Oh
hiking and
my
all
gosh.
that stuff.
Yeah. But Dan does that for me though. My job is so physical. Sometimes I just don't want to do anything. And so Dan's great because he's okay, let's go take a walk or let's go take some pictures or let's go do this. And I like that because he inspires it in more of a fun way. There's work and there's
Mm.
all that physicalness, but I would say I think Colin does that for you in a lot of ways, not just mentally, but physically. They bring a life-giving side of your relationship, right? They
Mhm.
can bring things, whether it's mental or spiritual or physical, that kind of help you. That's what I feel like a relationship should be, especially in a
Mhm.
marriage, is it should feel like this. It should feel like it's life-giving. And I think that's one of the things I've learned from my past is that when it's not life-giving, it's okay to question it and ask what needs to change. I do feel like
Yeah.
people fear that. They either fear the change or the asking even.
Yeah.
That's a big piece of it is acknowledging it, but not being afraid to ask those questions.
Yeah. All right. Let's deviate from the heavy stuff for a minute.
Okay.
Because I feel like you and I could talk heavy for
Oh
days,
yeah. Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's tell me what trips are you wanting to do in 2026?
Oh, I might extend it. I'm going to go like between 2026 to maybe even a little bit further out, like a couple of years,
Okay.
because I think it's I when we put trips down, I've never been to Europe. And so I would
Oh,
love to either go, that's on my list, either Italy or Greece or Spain. We've got some things that we thought about. England, his daughter lives in England, so I've always wanted to see, he wants to see a soccer game. He wants to see
oh
a
yeah.
he'd love to see a Wrexham game. He's seen a Premier League game. What he brings to the marriage is the fun things that I never thought of doing. And yet, then what I bring to the marriage is that other piece of places I haven't been. He's been all over the world, and
Right.
I've not. And so,
Yeah.
so that would be on our future trip. Always a beach somewhere. We love Turks and Caicos, and so we would love to go back there. But we've talked about always having at least seeing the ocean, both what that does for
Mm.
both of us. We
What is
won't.
your astrological sign?
I'm Leo. Yeah, I'm a Leo.
What's his?
His birthday is November 6th. So
That a
what?
Sag?
Oh gosh, is that Sag? I have it. I wrote it down. I know I have it somewhere, but and it'd be fun to
November what?
November 6th. Yeah, he's
Excellent.
November 6th, 1970. I think I wrote down that one time when we were first dating a lot of things about what makes us work together, what makes us complement each other, and I can't remember what his is. Do you remember?
Scorpio. You're a
He's
Leo? Is that what you said?
a Leo. I'm a
And he's
August.
a Scorpio?
Yep.
You guys are feisty.
Yes, we are, which is so fun to see. We are not feisty at each other. And it's so funny. He worries about that sometimes. We don't fight and we don't argue. And I'm like, no, I said, I think we've had a lifetime of that, enough of that. I don't think we need to do that. But it's fun now because we are feisty I'd say we infiltrate that or we use that for being passionate for what
Mm,
we're doing or for each other. We're advocates
yeah.
almost for feistiness. You want to say?
Some of this stuff, I just put that into Chat GPT and it says some of the classic Scorpio energy includes depth, intensity, and emotional insight, strong intuition and magnetism, transformation, rebirth, and resilience, and
Man,
a truth-seeking, no surface level BS vibe.
no wonder why I like him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he was a magnet, man. I was like, yep. I told him that. He's like, how did you know it was so early? And we tease each other about that. And I was like, man, I just knew. I just knew there was something about you. And now as we learn, it's so fun because we learn about each other
Mm.
now, even in hindsight after that. But read to me, remind me what the Leo stuff is. If that's his, what was the Leo side? I know there's a lot about life,
So
leadership and things like that.
this
But
is core Leo energy, confidence and presence, warmth and generosity, natural leadership, loyalty, courage,
yeah.
love, self-expression, needs to feel appreciated, not
Oh,
ignored.
yes. He and
Um,
I match really well because
yeah.
he is
When
drawn to that. Yeah.
when Leo is unbalanced, it
Mm,
craves validation instead of connection, which
yes.
that sounds like me, like I would
That sounds
talking
right.
about. Can feel wounded if unrecognized, and pride can block vulnerability.
Yep, I would say those were true in the past for sure. And those are still something that I think about when you talk about value, like having acknowledging and valuing yourself and not getting it necessarily always from other people.
Mm.
And thankfully, I did marry somebody that just validates me like every day. It's almost like I can't even believe it. Every single day, I feel like that. It's amazing to read those now and how much we are drawn to each other, but then how much we nurture those things in each other. I would say that
Yeah.
would be something to acknowledge. And I would say that I would want to encourage my own kids and their relationships and other people. If you're wanting to really get to know somebody, it's not just asking them those questions, but it's also understanding them and then understanding their desires, asking them those things. But
Yeah.
that's amazing for you to read those out loud to me now. I'm like, oh my gosh, no wonder why we like each other.
Yeah. I was curious because you were mentioning the beach, and I'm a Pisces, so that's a water sign. I don't
Yes.
think either of yours are water
We don't
signs,
have
but
water. We love sand and the ocean,
mm,
is sun. We are both drawn to light, I will say that. So him, he's more night sky, moon, stars, which he's taught me about,
mm,
but sun as well. And just in general, I would say light. When we look at places that we visit, we love Westcliff, Colorado. I don't know if you've
mm.
been south. It's a dark city. It's an international dark city.
Yeah, near the sand dunes.
Yep. And it's the wet mountains, it's the Santa Cristos. And so
Mhm.
it's so pretty because if I showed you the pictures that he's taken of the sky, I'm like, no wonder why, again, no wonder why I like you because you're so drawn to light
Mm.
and things that are so much bigger than what we are. So yeah, that would be something I would say around vacations and times what we look forward to would be beach. We do want to see a Formula One race that's out there.
Oh, that would be fun.
A Formula One race, and then we'd
Aren't they
love
doing, don't they
um,
do one in Vegas now?
they do a Vegas, they did a Miami, and they did an Austin. We would want to go see one maybe like in Canada because I've never been to Canada. And then
In
yours on our
Italy?
list.
Isn't that where it
Oh,
came
there's
from?
yep, Monza. I can't remember if it's Monza or where it is, or I know there's one in
Oh,
Monaco. But yeah, so there's and so that's one that I'd love to go see. A soccer game would be so fun to go see because I've never done something like that. We'd love to see a Wrexham game. That would be
yeah.
Wrexham. But that's the next, I'd say within the next 3 years, those are the bigger trips that are probably on the list.
Nice.
The smaller trips would be trips. Westcliff is really quiet. It's not just a dark city, it's also very quiet. And so you talk about those times probably on your trips where you're like, wow, there's just not a lot of noise and people and things
Mm.
going on. And it's scaringly exciting because you're going, this is scary because I have to process stuff, but it's really quiet because I can finally hear, wow, this is what it's like to hear.
Ah.
But yeah, I would say those are a couple trips. We want to go see Glacier. Is it
Oh,
Montana or where he wants to go? Places where he can take pictures, places where I think we both enjoy the outdoors and those kinds of things. So yeah, that would be the next year.
yeah. One of the ones on my bucket list is like road trip up to Tetons, Glacier National Park, and Banff. That's what I want to do. But I need lots of weeks to do that because it's really far. So,
The travel and then taking the time to see it all. Like,
yeah, for
oh
sure. Yeah.
yeah.
Side note, really quick. Scorpio is a water sign,
Ah,
and Leo is a fire sign.
that's right.
Fire and water.
How
You
does
guys
that
are a good balance.
Right. It is a good balance. It is fun to see, to be playful. We're
Mhm.
playful in our strengths, I would say,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
really fun. But yeah, it's fun to do that with somebody for the first time. You've had it with Colin for how many years now?
20, almost 21.
That's what it's inspiring. I'm just going,
Mm.
okay, we got 20, 40 more years. Let's just keep going and it gets better from here. And that's, I think, what we both tell each other, which is really fun. But trips, isn't it fun doing trips with somebody? Like it's really fun to go
Well, it has
places.
its moments where it's not, but yeah.
Right. It's fun. I think you learn to have you set it, no, not even that you set aside time. Colin will go off and probably do his own thing, and then you'll be over here doing your own thing, whether that's drinking tea or writing or
Yeah,
doing
we've done
something
that
like
a
that.
few times actually, more recently, because I think I used to not do very well alone and I've gotten better. I very much cherish my alone time. So when we do go for 5 weeks or more or something like that, and we're literally with each other 24/7, like we need that separation. Yeah, and a lot of the times it'll be him going on a hike that I don't really care to do, or him going to the gym when I don't really care to do it. And I'll do exactly that. I'll go to a cafe
Yeah.
and do some journaling and get a tea and just hang out, listen to music. Yeah, I've done that several times. And I also used to say that I think that people who are engaged or getting married should have to go on some type of backpacking trip because
The true self, the true
you
every.
learn when you're put into those really stressful, tough situations where all you have is the other person to rely on. You learn so much about each other and it will make or break you. And I think that's where I feel very fortunate that Colin and I grew together in that regard and not apart, but we had our moments. One of the biggest fights we had was on one of our trips. And so,
That's great advice, though, to young couples, isn't it? A counselor had told him that before we dated. They said there are a couple of things you need to do to test your relationship's ability and longevity. And an international trip was one of them,
Mhm.
actually. An international trip, backpacking trip, even more, because it's just you
Yeah.
and that person, right? You're doing food and everything together. But I would say that's amazing. You learn a lot about yourself and how you work together.
Yeah, and it forced us to talk about money and stuff beforehand too, because like he started this whole thing. And if I wanted to go and keep up, like I had to save my own money too. Like we had to be on the same page about
Yeah.
that stuff. And so it makes you have conversations that I don't think people have when they're just living their everyday life. And then it forces you into situations where you're forced to have to show your true color. When I get hangry, oh boy. Great, let's find you food because you're being awful right now.
That's so true though. That and even recognizing in yourself or the stress like of travel or missing things or having what happens to you when you're put in a high stress situation. I agree. Like that's
Yeah.
something that is very invaluable to learn. Tells you
Yeah.
how you're going to manage the things that come up with your own family and
Yeah.
your own decisions. Yeah, how you're going to handle it. But, oh my gosh, yeah. But
All
that's
right, we're getting
every
quite long here, but
that's right. I know. Oh my
another
gosh.
thing, so another thing I wanted to ask you was like, what books are you hoping to read? Like
Ooh.
self-help books. You have a list of books you want to read in 2026?
I finished the ones on 2026. Anything that Glennon Doyle put out a book that I worked through, and then Laura Lynn Jackson, she did her third book this last year. It's been fun, not just on the serious side of stuff, but I also get imagination and inspiration on the other side of stuff. Taylor was the one that started, my daughter was the one that introduced me to romantic and fantasy and that kind of stuff. And so then I took that and found my own authors and read, I think I read probably 30 books this last year. And it was, and I know I'm not read, I'll not necessarily read. There were sometimes I had to do it on Audible
Ah,
because
that
I think
counts.
that, because I was like, I can't physically pick it up, but I really want to enjoy the books. Those books that aren't necessarily the self-help books also help with your imagination and how to deal with relationships or how you challenge things and stuff like that. I'm open to 2026. I don't have anything on my list yet for 2026, but I would like some.
I really want to read Elizabeth Gilbert's new book.
Ooh, it's hers.
Something about the water. There's something about the water,
Yeah, I wrote
but
that down. Elizabeth
it's
Gilbert.
about, so I don't know how many people, this is not like I'm telling a secret, but
Gilbert, she did the Eat, Pray, Love, right? Gilbert, yeah, yeah, and she's friends with, yeah, that
with
group. That,
Glennon Doyle. Yeah, so she wrote this one because she Eat, Pray, Love was all about her finding herself and
right,
her
right,
husband.
that's right.
And she left her husband to go be in a lesbian relationship with this woman who was dying.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's
Wow.
the book is like her memoir about that time in her life of helping this girl out, getting her through her healing through cancer and all these things. And then she says that she realized in all of it that she was addicted to love and stuff like that. I don't know. I've listened to her a few times talk about it, and it's on my to read list. So that is one that, as far as not necessarily self-help, I think, but it's also memoir, and she's just so
Memoir.
smart. I really like her. I read her. Big Magic is a really good one. If you haven't read that, you should read that.
That's one that it was a couple years old, isn't it? Big Magic, I
Yeah.
think. That's a lot. Yeah, there are a
Yeah,
couple.
but that one's more self-help than Eat, Pray, Love, than like storytelling. It's really good. And as a business person, I think you would really like it. So you should read that one.
That one was, tell me, I feel like I read some of that. What was the name of that one again?
Big Magic.
Big Magic. I feel like I have that on Audible. I think I probably downloaded it and I just didn't get to it. But yeah, there's a couple I want to get to.
Yeah.
Those are inspiring, aren't they? Those are, I do hearing, it's kind of like podcasts. I like hearing other people's stories. And so a memoir or a biography or
Mhm.
something about someone it draws because you see how they got through their life and then what kind of
Mhm.
helped them or what sources they used or resources they used. Yeah. Oh
And I
yeah.
think it helps me too because I know I'm not the only one going through hard shit in this
Yeah.
life. It makes me realize that even the celebrities go through hard shit. Like I read Gabrielle Union's book because she went through
Yeah.
infertility and
Yeah.
things like that. It's just it humanizes them a little bit when we just always think that you're rich and you're famous and you have everything, right? And the reality is it doesn't matter if you're rich and famous. Like you still have hard shit that's happening.
How do you manage it? How do you process it? How do you go through it? And that was the fun part about watching the Netflix series that my daughter got me into about Taylor Swift's
Yeah.
the Eras tour. And I was like, wow, you never really know the back details of how long she's been singing, playing an instrument, what she went through to get to this place. That she just didn't show up on stage in front of 100,000 people without the hardship and the challenges and the music relationships, gosh, that she went through. So it's fun to have my own daughter bring in something in my life that I didn't even know was there from who influences her. So yeah, and then there's a pretty good list of some books I think for 2026 now that yeah, that
For romantasy, I highly recommend Fourth Wing.
oh, that's a different one. Let me write that one down. Fourth Wing. Who's the author of this one?
Rebecca Yarros, and she lives in Colorado Springs, but this series is amazing. I think it was my favorite of 2025.
Okay. That's one I've not heard of yet.
How
Okay.
have you not heard of it?
I think it's because I was immersed in like this. I
Sure.
had two different authors. I read all of the series and all of their books, and that's all I listened to forever. But that kind of finished this last fall, and so now I've got my good list. I think whether I'm so grateful for something like Audible because I can't always sit down and just read something unless I'm on a
Same.
trip. Usually I'll read if I'm on a trip or I'm on a plane or something like that because I really enjoy the words still and actually reading the process of it. But Audible is a big one because then I can just turn it on. Or I like being able to go back and flip to the chapters where I'm like, wait, what did they say? Or what was it
Yeah.
that what was that quote? Or how did they process or get through this? That's the other nice part about having it just right there to click. Podcasts are kind of like that too. You can go back and save your podcasts and click them too. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Good resources, right? Good
Yeah.
resources.
Yeah. And travel and books are some of my two favorite things. So that's why I wanted to ask you about this.
You're getting ready for your big travel. That's right.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get to have that experience again.
Yeah, I'm ready. So,
I know.
okay. So, we're going to do some final questions here.
Yeah.
What is the biggest lesson 2025 etched into your soul?
Oh, continue to write down the things that you want and love. That
And be
just
open to it.
be open to it. Just continue to dream and imagine. Like
Mm.
that's the biggest thing that was the influence to carry over to keep doing. Some years it's really hard. And then this last year even in the challenging times, it proved to be just a generous dose of just not just resilience, like when we talk about that, but it talks about hope and light and having that down for what you want and for what is pretty powerful because it continues to guide you, not just in what you're in, but also where you want to go.
I love that. And what intention are you holding as you step into 2026?
Oh, wow. Those could be so many things. Dan asked me this too. What is it? I think it would continue to be love for yourself.
Mm.
That's what came out of that first marriage for me. That was the first word I think I put up in my house after that first marriage. And that's continued to be love and light would be those continued
Mm.
intentions, I would say, based on quote that I read. It was like, do it with intention unconditionally that you love and extraordinarily. Those are
Mm.
big ones because I think that light wins out and especially in those darker times for people.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, friend, I just could talk to you for forever. I feel like we'll just be here all day
I
talking
know,
about
right?
all the deep
All
things
day.
in
Yeah,
life.
yeah. Good
So,
podcast though.
but we should probably close it out now because it's been like an hour and a half.
But look, it's nice. We're closing out like at the end of December. This resonates for like where we're going for sure.
Yeah.
For both of us. I'm excited about your trip, about your podcast, about
Thank you.
what the next year is in store for you too. I can't wait.
Yeah, I don't really know. I moved my business this year too. That was a big one for me. So this will be my next full year just in where I am at. And I feel like I finally found a rhythm there. And Colin's 40th birthday is in September. So we're probably going to do a trip for that. And yeah, so we've got some things on the docket for sure. So
That's what,
hopefully it's a better year for everyone than
yes.
2025.
Right? Something the year of the horse. I'm gonna still go look that one up. I want to look that one up and see what it says. That would be fun, especially being in my industry. But yeah, thank you for this, by the way. Thank you for asking. And it's always encouraging. Like I told you, I said, man, you just asking me to be on the podcast opened up that door of saying, all right, let's not forget to reflect back and then also look at it and then move forward and see what would we want to do.
Yeah.
That's coming out of that first podcast in marriage is what really resonated with me was what do I get to look forward to and enjoy? Yeah, that's a big one. But thank you though. Thank you for this.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on and being vulnerable and sharing all your everything you've learned and your soul. And I just love it. I think we have such good conversations. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I hope you all have a better 2026 than 2025 if it was a tough year for you. And we'll see you next year on the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you enjoyed our conversation and found value in the stories shared, please consider following us on your preferred podcast platform. Your ratings and reviews make a huge difference. They help us reach more listeners and continue bringing you engaging, insightful content. We appreciate your support and would love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Until next time, keep listening, growing, and sharing.